Right, that was well picked up, I guess, as a question. When I've been looking at the idea of what makes up something that's actually alive as opposed to not alive, and that is one of the factors I've included has been living things have, in some ways, the ability to have some self-direction in their life. They can actually choose to move in some way to achieve either food or shelter or some other need they might have. And you might well ask, well, what about a plant, or what about a certain sort of algae and whatever? They don't seem to have much movement in terms of being able to move around. And there are other sort of living things like perhaps jellyfish or whatever, who actually they only move because the water around them moves, and so it's actually the environment which is moving them, not the actual creature itself. But I think I would still say that a living organism, creature, does actually have some sense of self-direction. It's really just to what extent it actually has that. And it could be very, very little. It may actually move a very, very small distance, or it may actually move a very big distance. Some animals, as we know, can move virtually around the world, quite like humans, for example. Other animals might move just a few centimetres in their entire lifetime. Other animals might move, in terms of actual physical distance, nothing, like say a plant. But a plant does actually move. A plant can, even though it's in one place, in terms of where it's growing pretty much, it can actually grow and choose where it actually puts its branches or its leaves and so on to get sunlight and to get the best advantage of some other things. So plants do actually, like say water for example, so plants actually do have some self-direction within their limitations. Bacteria have, I guess, a degree of self-direction where they can actually latch onto other bacteria and move and have the ability to actually move around. Even viruses, which some people might actually say are the margin of life, have found ways to actually move around. So definitely within the limitation, self-direction is a factor, because at the end of the day, something that's not alive, like a rock, doesn't move at all. A hill doesn't move, and so on. So there is an element of movement within some little constraint in living things. Living things that move through other elements, like jellyfish, where they might move through just because the water moves them around, and they actually, if they don't have water to move them, they actually can't move at all. I would say it's still a self-directing way of being, because they've actually evolved to actually be moved around by that medium. In a sense, they quite deliberately, well, no, that's the wrong word. They have quite, I guess, that they found a way to actually get what they need by evolving to be moved around by water. And while they're in water and they move, it's actually, in a sense, it's a sort of a self-directing way of going about your business. And so on and so on. So I think if you look at every living thing that we would call living, you'll find some sense of self-direction in there in some way, be it a large amount of movement or not, which is there to actually help them achieve something they actually need. And yeah, I think that's is an important part of being alive. And yeah, I guess until I find something, or can think of something which actually doesn't have that element as part of their being, and it's still considered to be alive, then I guess we can relook at that. But vast majority, it's there and as part of the equation. So that's my answer to that question. It is definitely something to think about as what is life. Life can, to some degree, direct where it goes, what it does, and how it actually gets its needs met within limits, depending on the type of life form it is. Yeah.